What do you think of when you hear AI? How does it make you feel? When I hear AI, I generally feel not much at all. I'm not an advocate for nor an opponent against the technology, but I guess the best word to use is that I'm just uninterested. Maybe the thought of learning how to use yet another piece of software makes me really tired. Maybe I don't like the thought of losing some control. Whatever the reason, when I hear AI anything, I just shrug my shoulders. I don't trust it. I let out a sigh, and I move on. So, when we were researching for this episode of the podcast, and it ended up that the subject would be NOV's proprietary AI manufacturing platform, needless to say, I felt pretty disinterested. But what I didn't know was that this basically had nothing to do with AI, and that actually, at its heart, it was about the thing that I'm most interested in, something AI will never be able to replace. Welcome to the DNA of NOV. There's a video on YouTube that I like to watch from time to time when I need a laugh. It's an explainer video that looks like it's from the early 90s of some kind of complicated control system. The on-screen personality uses nonsense phrases like lunar wane shaft and hydrocoptic Marsal veins to explain the complex nature of this piece of machinery. If you Google retroencapulator, you'll see what I mean. It's an obvious spoof on the types of buzzwords that marketing and engineering departments like to use to add a sense of complexity or importance. Episode 2 brings us to Houston, Texas, where we spend a day with the Auredia team. Auredia is the name of NOV's AI blockchain-based comprehensive manufacturing solution. A quick glance at the website for Auredia, and I see terms like maximization, optimize, asset effectiveness. Now, these are all valid and meaningful concepts, but I have to say, my first thoughts? It sounded like a lot of buzzwords. But I am committed to the project, so onward. I met up with Ash Menon, Senior Vice President for EPS, and Rachel Lamont, the Director of Auredia Operations, at the PCG facility in Houston to do a walkthrough of part of the machine shop and see firsthand how Auredia is implemented. And for me, all was not lost because I've known Ash for several years. He's an incredible leader, a mentor, and just a great guy. So there was some level of trust already established that allowed me to stay open and curious. Rachel, I'd only talked with briefly on the phone, but after meeting her in person, it took all of 2 seconds to feel comfortable. Very warm, considerate, but also focused and committed to her job. It was very obvious from these two that they believe in the purpose and prospect of Auredia. And I could almost feel it too, even though I had no idea what it was. I was about to find out.
It is a beautiful day. It
It
finally feels like a fall a little bit.
After signing in at PCG and a short safety meeting, Rachel drove us in a golf cart over to one of the machine shops running Auredia.
We're home.
Nice.
First impressions of the shop were impressive. Large, modern, squeaky clean, with about 3 or 4 rows of large, shiny CNC machines. It was nice, but it all looked very normal. I don't know what I expected to see from a manufacturing process that was apparently run by AI, but in my mind I had conjured up some kind of robotically automated system that was churning out parts without human intervention. Rachel had walked away for a moment, but I see her coming back with another woman by her side, whose energy I could sense from across the room.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
How are you? This is Paul with NOV.
Nice to meet you, Paul.
This is Melinda Baltazar, the shop supervisor. We shake hands, and I thank her for allowing us into her shop. But in my mind, I was there to talk to Ash and Rachel about Auredia. Melinda is looking at me, I'm looking at Ash and Rachel, they're both looking at me and back at Melinda. I was slightly confused.
Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
What the hell are we doing here?
I love it. I love it.
So,
Well-
no, for real. Okay, so I am here because I want to represent somebody who is maybe in Norway or in China.
Little did I know, at that point, I was just along for the ride. And Melinda, my captain.
And they're like, Auredia, what is this? I don't know what it is. So I was like,
It's a
great.
form of communication, number one. It's interacting with the employees. For example, I was in a meeting this morning and I received several emails through Auredia saying that, okay, the machinist at machine 153 waiting on program. Machinist in machine shop 1 waiting on his manager. Machine shop 1, we just got notified by Auredia. They're waiting on a forklift. You're looking at the print. You're looking at tooling. We're looking at, I'm notifying programmer. Setup time. We're looking at the run time. The programmer comes back and says, okay, Melinda, these are the program's not working. Keeps me interacting with the shop, with the employees, and with production. There's a lot of variables.
Can you take us to one of those machines and just show us, like, here's what it actually did?
Let's go back to 153. Hopefully they're not at lunch.
At this point, I think I may have blinked and Melinda was at least 15 to 20 feet down the aisle toward machine 153. She was a woman on a mission.
Melinda is walking fast.
That's just my nature. And again, to keep up with the demand.
It had only been 2 minutes, and this was already very clear to me. I try to keep up.
So again, this is all taking place just today, waiting on program. That's why I was going to 153. But if you've noticed,
While Melinda is saying this, she's showing me her phone and scrolling through various emails she's received that morning about different issues in the shop. And this, I remember, was a moment where my curiosity was sparked.
So is this a way, so did the machinist actually input that information
That is
saying,
correct.
I need help here, or
That is
this,
correct.
or so this is not something to where a machine is looking at itself and saying, we've come upon a problem. This is just a way of people communicating in a much quicker way, in a much more efficient way. Is that true?
And then Ash adds to that.
Because what we also do is we connect to the, you see the tablet right there at the machine?
What Ash is referencing is a tablet, which is installed on every machine running Auredia. It's the way for the machinist to sound the alarm, so to speak, whenever something has interrupted their work. They push a button, and every person up the chain of command is notified that they need help. That's part of the AI, but another part is the tracking of the machine data itself.
So then we compare what the machinist says is happening at the machine with what the machine says is happening at the machine as well. So we can compare both of those. We save that pattern. The next time we see that same pattern happen again, we say, oh, by the way, when we saw this happen the last time, so y'all might want to pay attention to that. So that's happening behind the scenes as well.
So, real quick, just tell me, what is it?
If you couldn't hear me just then, this is when I implored Ash, just tell me, what is Auredia?
Okay, so really the way she trains our people is that it's your voice. It's the voice of that person running that machine. Because if that person's running that machine all the time, we're making as much money as we can as NOV. And the second that stops running, we're losing money. And that's the worst thing we can have in any machine shop is your machine's not running. Because it's like if you're an Uber driver, you're only making money when you're driving the car. The second you leave that parked over there, guess what you're not doing? Making money. The other thing is, when she said waiting on tools or waiting on machining, we immediately tell you how much money you're losing. So if you were to log in, that's the crazy part. By the minute. I can tell you how much money you're losing right now by that machine. So what happens, we connect the dots between money and machining and people and all of that and put it in one place. So you're not thinking, what's the business case to buy a new machine? Well, guess what? It's broke all the time, and this is how much money we're losing while that machine's broke all the time.
This was the moment when I finally started understanding what this was. It was not an automated manufacturing system that removed people from the process. It was a way for everyone to know instantly that our machinists need resources, and the longer their requests go unanswered, the more money we collectively lose.
Rachel brought it up. It's your voice. It's the voice of her or somebody telling us, hey, help me fix this problem, because if I fix this, I'm making us more money. Sorry, Melinda, go ahead.
So 2 things have happened while you were talking. We have a machine down. So I'm being notified that there is a machine down, and I need to understand why is the machine down. So if we go to would you like to walk over?
Go.
Okay, let's walk.
Thank you.
But I really
We'll come back to Melinda, but I want to skip to later that day when I was able to sit down with Ash and Rachel and talk about the story of Auredia and how it came to be.
Y'all don't want like creamer in your coffee?
I asked him.
I have creamer, that's what I was gonna share.
The Auredia headquarters is in a long-standing NOV location on Richmond Avenue in Houston. Tucked away in the corner of the 5th floor, we've set up shop in what I can only call their war room. It's an oddly shaped corner room with floor-to-ceiling, wall-to-wall screens, showing a schematic of every shop where Auredia is installed and the current status of each machine. It's really quite a sight. We have some really great imagery of all the people and locations that I mentioned on this episode, as well as an in-depth article on Auredia at www.nov.com/DNA. You should really go check it out. They're amazing. Okay, back to the beginnings of Auredia.
Real quickly, I mean, it was all Grant Brightco, and one of the things is when I got there in July of 2015, it had already gone from $1 billion down to $500 million. So the revenue, just like the rest of NOV, right? We're all struggling. One of the biggest things that happens a lot of times is when you're trying to reduce costs, you think that, hey, let me just go move everything east or to lower cost manufacturing. But we felt like there's enough waste that exists in manufacturing that if you know what the problems are, you fix those problems, you can make money. And then we did exactly what we do here, which is basically we connected all the equipment. And when a piece of equipment stops running, we wanted to know why it's not running and how much money we were losing. So everybody in the plant knew, upsetter number 1 is not running and it's waiting on materials. So everybody's job was to say, what can we do to help? And then at the end of it, there were so many improvements in the plant. We made enough money. That means our costs dropped so much more than the revenues were dropping that we were extremely profitable. Enough that,
the hardest part
2016, 2017, and 2018, we had the best years as far as profitability was concerned. While the revenues went from $1 billion to $500 million to $300 million to $273 million. So if I just showed you the top line, you'd think, that business is not doing well. But in fact, actually, we're doing pretty good. And then Clay said, well, why can't we replicate that across NOV?
So Ash gets the imperative from the CEO of NOV himself to go and replicate this in all of our facilities. But to do that, he needed a team. Rachel was among the first that he went to, and together they came up with a philosophy for how they would build this team.
So we have a saying, it matters. We hire for attitude and we train for skill.
Say that again.
Hire for attitude and we train for skill.
Every employee that we have has interned with us. We want to know that they have what it takes to do. We know if you don't know how to do something, we can get you up there really quickly. All we need to know is that you got the attitude. And then we also know, what do you like to do? It's like, okay, if you like to be with people, you like to talk, then there's that role.
Rachel and Ash then proceed to tell me story after story of the diverse nature of their team and how it was assembled. Some people seemed fit for purpose for what was needed, such as Nick and Lan and their brilliant team of developers who are creating the AI software and hardware systems that get installed on every machine. But some hires were more unconventional, like Ellie, who Rachel found waiting tables at a local hotel. Lacey was a welder when she was hired on. And there's Philip, the former golf pro.
And that's everybody. There's about 18 of us.
We can say that
every
about
single one. So
it
that's why I feel
happens
bad.
this
Like,
way.
man, I'm leaving this person out and that person
Yes, it's been
out,
amazing. It's something how you give people, recognize the person and what they can offer. You can have someone's skill set from here to El Paso, but that isn't what it is. You can have all of those things, but it's about what that person they need and what I needed, and it just connects. I mean,
Tyler, who you'll meet, the product line manager, she's a forensic anthropologist, and but now is in charge of all the development, every single from requirements documentation to what needs to get built. She knows.
I was able to get some time with Tyler, the forensic anthropologist, to talk about her experience working on Auredia.
Mostly what I do, I try to coordinate like our developments, but we get, requests for new things all the time. And so trying to coordinate when we can work on them, how quickly we're working on them, and just trying to keep it on track.
There was also Jared Gibson, the former aerospace engineer, who is now their manager of plant operations.
So my role has kind of evolved into where now I am in charge of all of our installations. And so all of the hardware that goes behind Auredia falls under my bucket, as well as I work really closely with our engineering team with all the engineering projects that we go for.
This is now the second reference that's been made to this engineering team, and I really wish I would have had the opportunity to sit down with their two senior members, Nick Zakluski and Lan Vo. However, due to the confluence of different circumstances, we just weren't able to make that happen, which is totally fine because that's just the way it goes sometimes. So we'll defer to the praises of their colleagues to talk about the important work their team does.
We could not do what we do without them, and insanely smart is an understatement, I think.
I always have this joke with Nick, like when he has to do something, he's like, oh, it's gonna take me forever. I'm like, dude, you're gonna be done in 10 minutes, whatever. And he comes back like 10 minutes later and he's like, so I finished this thing, and I'm like, mm-hmm. And it amazes me what they can come up with.
With me, it was kind of a great experience getting to learn that engineering process of like, okay, how do we, instead of over-engineer the problem, it was like, hey, how do we almost under-engineer of like, how do we make it as simple as possible?
But, you know, they put hours and hard work into this stuff, all to make something that for the customer is supposed to be like, Ash is always like, make it as few clicks as possible, make it as simple as possible. And that's the part that like takes the most amount of time. Is like, I don't know how to make this any more simple, but we're gonna sit here and try to figure it out because you had to go to 2 or 3 different pages to do this. Like, that's not gonna fly. So it's hard to make things simple. It's so hard.
And this is where we get to the heart of what makes Auredia work, and why the Auredia team spends so much time making things so simple. They chose the difficult and some might say inefficient path of listening to the machinists. Every machinist.
That's why when we say we meet with them individually, and I say that every single machine over there's not a single machine you've seen here that is run by somebody from Auredia has not spoken to individually to say, hey, let me tell you how this can help.
There was a learning curve for me. I remember I went out there and I'd look out in the audience, either I'd see this, shaking heads, or some are asleep. Because there's a break. I've tried this. I've seen this before. This is a big brother. And I also asked them after my training, what did I say wrong to you? What turned you off? He said, you said data and software. You're telling me how to run my machine. And then, of course, I went into, no, I need you to tell me when you can't.
You know, there's a reluctance because there's a level of distrust that's there saying, okay, wait, you can't be here to help me. You can't. You're doing this because you want to. There's something, some ulterior motive. I'm like, no.
I can't tell you how much I have learned from our machinist. It's incredible what these guys do. I said, you guys are artists. You are artists, and I'm amazed by what you know. Our machinists have taught me how to train machinists.
The training on this, we say we train everybody. 50 people, an entire plant, everybody's going to be trained and they're going to be using the system in a day. Because we got to make it that simple, right? When your machine's not running, just tell us what it is. Hey, I'm waiting on material. Well, guess what? Click the button that says waiting on material. You don't have to do anything more. There's no more training. All of this is to say that, you know, that empowering the people is basically letting them know that they're in control. That story is not what we wrote for them. The story is what they write for themselves.
None of this would be possible. None of this without the machinists. Nothing. You would have nothing to look at today.
Listening to Ash and Rachel speak about the importance of the machinist took me back to earlier that day at Melinda's shop. When we left off, Melinda had just gotten a notification in real time through Auredia that a machine was down, and she allowed us to shadow her while we went to speak to Kenny Bui, the machinist who had sent her the message. When we arrived, she takes us directly to the Auredia tablet.
And as you see, that is showing waiting on programmer. Okay? So with that being said, and this actually populated at 7:46 this morning. So again, there's more issues. And what happened, we had a tool change. Kenny went to the tool room, located the tool, brought the tool back because he says that the programmer did come out and ask him, hey, this is the tool that we're needing. Can you go ahead and locate the tool? So that's exactly what he did. He notified the programmer and said, okay, I found the tool. So now the programmer is making the edits to the program. So we're not sitting waiting idly just because we're waiting. We're all in communication why the machine is not running.
After a little more explanation from Melinda, she actually turned to Kenny to give his honest feedback on the importance of the Auredia tablet.
He's asking, be honest, if we didn't have Auredia, and like you guys say, Melinda, you're always in a meeting, you're going to do what?
To tag to her, but I don't know where she is. Yeah. She didn't know what I'm doing either. Right? The tablets can tell everything. If I need her, I tag in here. Everybody know. My boss know, everybody know. If no tablet, I cannot tell them.
And y'all know how much money is ticking away by the second.
Yeah. Because when everybody knows it, what happens is now they know Kenny needs help. And when Kenny is not able to run that machine, we as NOV, all of us are hurting. We all need to say, hey, Melinda, what do you need that we can help you make NOV make money?
So with the Auredia in the app, this is live. So we know exactly.
Auredia is life, according to shop supervisor Melinda Baltazar. That's a statement that sticks with someone like me, who started the day very ignorant and admittedly skeptical of Auredia, what it does and what it means. But I wasn't done learning. It turns out the Auredia team hasn't just stopped there on the NOV shop floor. They've formed partnerships with the University of Houston and HCC, the Houston Community College system, which has multiple campuses in the greater Houston area, in order to teach Auredia in the classroom. And they put interns in charge of it.
Hi, my name is Beatrice Perez. I'm a marketing specialist for Auredia.
And my name is Zara Donji. I'm also a marketing specialist for Auredia.
So the goal is to get manufacturing students, and just students in general, interested in the manufacturing industry. Becoming a machinist, becoming an engineer. The way that we also do that is because we're Auredia. We do teach them, there's this new side of manufacturing.
We don't want to start with the idea that this is new and presenting and it's something you have to learn, when it's something you can learn from the beginning and just have that idea going into it, if that makes sense.
And so their entire coursework, their deans have been trained on Auredia. So the dean has been trained on Auredia by Beatrice, who was in HCC studying, came from main campus, trained their dean and their entire manufacturing campus on how to use Auredia. And we didn't have to set up our own school, right? Why create something new when it's already there, So again, we need to build a pipeline when we are connected in the communities we're in, not just
This is a big deal for you, sir, because last year probably you wouldn't have been able to, nope, we're not ready, nope. It's not about the accolades. Does this work? And I've heard him and seen him turn down a lot of things because, Rachel, I can throw any application up, but does it work and does it mean something to that person? If not, it's a waste of time.
I think the people are what makes Auredia, to be honest. The people behind the machines, the people using the technology that we give them, the people creating the technology, it's the people.
What I've found to be true, and what Zara was focusing in on just now, is that the Auredia team is so much larger than just the small group creating the product. It's anyone who's connected to the product. The machinists, the shop supervisors, the QC personnel, the engineers. And I think I would be remiss to not let you hear the voices of the larger Auredia team. Here's Mike Serenio, a CNC machinist, 14 years with NOV.
Let's start at the beginning. When they first brought this over here, I didn't like it because there's literally an iPad looking at me and listening to me, and we actually called it a snitch pad. It's just one more thing that they got to keep an eye on us, and nobody liked it. But then once Ash and Rachel started explaining the features on there and the reasoning for there, then I found out we actually need this as a machinist. And the reason being is that I'm a machinist. I'm on the floor. I'm on my machine. If my machine ain't running, I'm not working.
Stephen Wynn, CNC machinist, 27 years with NOV.
What time do you start? What time do you take a break? What time do you go and lunch? Come back? Waiting for supervisor, manager, whatever in there.
Right.
They got everything. Like before, I didn't know, but when I asked my manager, say, Whatever you put in here, they will know right away.
Joshua LaChapelle, Senior Workshop Manager, 19 years with NOV.
The initial portion of Auredia and adjusting, once they got past that, they really embraced it. And to be honest with you, their input, that allowed Auredia team to actually go and make changes and adjustments. And then that also, that gave them the sense of being part of it versus here, do this.
Right.
And it's not just a wish list of an executive, Right. Making it intimate with, the persons that actually use it.
And now we're just going to bring, not necessarily accountability, because even that seems kind of finger pointing. It's more of just a spotlight. And the great thing is, once I put machine down, it'll notify whoever needs to be notified. So not only that I got a reasoning for why this machine's not running, I got other people involved in it automatically as well, and not just word of mouth.
This whole system, everything that we talk about, that's coming off of the backs of them, right? They're like, hey, we need a button for this. We need a button for this.
Yes.
We just build what they're telling us to build. So the credit, again, like you said, as soon as you said you want to know about radio, we're like, no, don't talk to us. Talk to the people who do this, right? It's real easy for us to talk about it. They're the ones who use it. They're the ones who built it.
Yes.
So.
But Paul, I do want to say something Ash said. We literally train one by one.
Every single person. Every single, doesn't matter where it is.
If there's 2-3 shifts, we will stay and talk to each person. We know their names. We know the people that work for us. So it's been pretty awesome.
I told you at the beginning of this that I had known Ash for several years, and so I knew that he had a knack for deflecting praise or accomplishment and putting it onto the people around him, which is an admirable trait for any leader. So when he kept telling me, don't talk to us, talk to the people who use it, don't talk to us, I kind of shrugged it off. But he was at least partially right. I say partially because, yes, it was important for me to go and listen to the voices of people using Auredia, the people on the shop floor. But also, his and Rachel's voices are very important to the story and success of Auredia. There's just no getting around that. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And so, to all who may be listening, I think the Auredia team and the Auredia story can offer us a reminder about our own work. Some of us may need to be reminded that having a team of people around us actually makes us better, and that success is not something we achieve on our own. Others of us may need to remember that our work and our voice matter, and are just as important to the success of NOV as anyone else's. So, whoever you are, and wherever you find yourself, I hope these final words from the larger Auredia team leave you with thanks for yourself, for the team around you, and hope for what the future may hold.
I hate failure. I don't believe in letting myself fail. It's got to be perfect the first time. And I think Ash and Rachel push me to like, A, that's wrong. B, they give me kind of the room to fail, and they are teachers. They're so wonderful to work for, and that's why I'm here.
It's like people just needed a place to feel like they were something, and they knew what they were doing, or felt like they needed someone to give them that assurance. And it's just organically happened for us.
We don't need to reinvent the wheel and go somewhere else. Manufacturing is the cheapest made where it's made. In the UK, in Brazil, in Saudi Arabia even. That is where, those people need to know the problems. That team there, and when they have a product like Auredia, they are able to understand those problems and fix them immediately.
Because it's NOV, it's not EE and EPS and rig and download tools and all of that stuff. It's just, hey, this is us.
It's us.
And then, man, those walls start falling, man, no one can beat us. DNA of NOV, right? You can't copy the DNA when we've built it in a way that nobody can build it. Man, no one can copy us.
The DNA of NOV is a homegrown production of the NOV marketing team in Houston, Texas. Special thanks to Mike Serenio, Dawson Nguyen, Joshua LaChapelle, Stephen Nguyen, Kenny Bui, Melinda Baltazar, Sean Malik, Zara Donji, Beatrice Perez, Jarrett Gibson, Tyler Ellis, Rachel Lamond, Ash Menon, and all the members of the greater Auredia team. Also, a big shout out to the many people on the marketing and organizational development teams for making all of this happen. From photography to creative writing to web design and wearables, it took a village. Namely, Wei-Han Lin, Jenny Manning, Lizette Gomez-Andrews, Shelby Dumaine, Kaylee Shelton, Danielle Francis, Peyton Monalongo, and Cassandra Casey. If you want your team or another team you see doing awesome work featured on the podcast, go to www.nov.com/DNA and nominate them today.